Howdy ho ho, my good humans. How are they doing? Hope everyone is well. I went on a bit of a crazy holiday shopping spree. The damn sales, the Black Friday sales, the Christmas sales, they'll get you. And a lot of these aren't even Christmas sales, just stuff that I really think more so than anything why I have such a pile of stuff to go through here today is because it's been a few months since I've made a pickups video, if I'm not mistaken. So I think a lot of the stuff is just kind of piled up over time. But we have a huge pickups video here today for you all. A lot of video games to go over, to discuss. So I hope y'all are all doing well, and I hope y'all are all ready to discuss some vidges. Yeah, I guess let's just go ahead and get into this thing, man. Happy New Year to you all. I don't know when this is going on. I'm recording this early in 2025, trying to go ahead and clean this up so I'm not adding anything new to the pile of shame, to the ever-growing mountain of backloggery. And I guess we'll start with one that's added straight to the backlog. Shadows of the Damned. Picked this up, the remastered version of it. I played a little bit of this back in the day and enjoyed the shit out of it for what I played, a nice Resident Evil 4 styled third-person shooter from Suda51 with that brand of humor, the very crude, very over-the-top, and I like that little blend there of the dark and the horror with also the over-the-top humor. So I picked up that remaster because I never finished it back in the day. So I figured, hey, why not finish it with a remaster port thing brought back from the dead for some reason. Tomb Raider remaster, going back to back with remasters here. My main experience with the Tomb Raider games back in the day was watching my dad play them. My dad was a massive Tomb Raider fan, and I can't imagine why. But I remember, so the thing I remember the most, obviously the infamous shit today of the, locking old dude in the freezer. But I remember the water section. It was like in Italy or it was somewhere, and you had a boat, and so there's like, I have a lot of these vague cool memories of Tomb Raider, but I haven't played them in so long to put any of that vagueness to rest. Like, I want to add more color to those vague memories. I want to actually have solid memories of what those classic games hold. You know what I mean? Because I hold them in a high regard, but I don't really know if I should. You know what I mean? It's one of those weird things where I haven't played them in so long. I don't know how well they hold up, if at all. I imagine probably not too well, because I even remember at the time being like, damn, some of this precision-based platforming is really, really frustrating. But I need to go back and play through all of those games, or at least, jump into them and check them out for a little bit. I'm not necessarily, I want to play through and finish Shadows of the Damned. I'm not like dying to finish the classic Tomb Raider games, but I'd like to at least jump into them and dabble a bit. Life is Strange Double Exposure. So I am a new Life is Strange guy, a new Life is Strange fan. I don't know if you would call it fan. I am a new Life is Strange observer. I don't know if player would be the right word. There's not a whole lot of game to be played in there. But I jumped into Life is Strange 1 last year, and I played through 1 and 2. And I was like, damn, I like these a lot. So I jumped into Double Exposure when it came out, because I was thinking, okay, do I need to play through True Colors? True Crime? Definitely not True Crimes. True Colors, I think. I was like, do I need to play through that one before jumping into Double Exposure? And then when I, read up a little bit more about what is all connected, I was like, no, you can pretty much just go straight from Life is Strange 1 into Double Exposure. And I didn't even really need to play 2, but I did anyway. And 2 is actually my favorite. But jumped into Double Exposure, and I was like, yeah, okay, wow, this is very, very, very PG, very Life is Strange 1 and 2 are just so much darker than Double Exposure. And y'all that know me, y'all know I always lean towards that slightly darker angle with the storytelling. And this just feels, even though Max and crew are older, it's like a more immature story with Double Exposure, which, is a little bit of a bummer, but hey, it's not like an awful game or anything like that. Just soft, very soft. Metaphor Refantazio. So I put about 25 hours into this thing. I appreciate it more than I like it. I think that's kind of my main takeaway with Metaphor Refantazio. I don't like the whole day-night cycle of going through and doing a bunch of tedious shit so that you can get back on your quest to become the king and build up your king points. And like, that was the shit that was compelling to me, is like this journey to become the king and all of the big arcs with these characters that were taking place and the themes that they were touching on. Like, I was really engaged in the main story. I'm not a side content guy. 9 times out of 10, I don't want to engage with, like, get to the good shit. Whatever you have that you think is your strongest shit, let me see that, and then let me cut off the fat. That's just kind of my take, though. I know that, but it's also, I think that's the thing that, we have to always keep in mind, is that everybody plays games differently. A lot of people are going to pick up Metaphor, and that's going to be their game for the year. That's going to be their game for 6 months. They're going to be playing nothing but Metaphor. And there's enough game in here to warrant that. A lot of people are going to do the same thing with a Rebirth or a Grand Theft Auto 6 or a Red Dead or whatever the case may be, those big games. And that'll be like the 1 or 2 games that they pick up in any given year. And there's enough content in there to justify just playing those games. Whereas I, obviously for the channel, but even just before the channel, I like to dabble. I like to jump between a bunch of different shit, check out as much shit as I can check out. So it doesn't necessarily cater to my tastes. I like a more scaled back, but more, what's the word I'm looking for? Like more substance, but less time, if that makes sense. Like, let's cut everything that isn't substantial and let's just kind of fill this damn burger up with as much substance as you can pack in between those buns. Wonderful analogy there. Undisputed, the boxing game. This was Deep Silver. This is under the Embracer umbrella, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, first AAA boxing game that we've got in a long time, since Fight Night. What would that have been? Fight Night Champion back in like 2011, 2012, something like that. It's been a while. And I think there is a part of me that liked the game more than I actually should have, if I'm just being totally honest. Like, there's a part of me where I'm playing Undisputed and I'm like, yeah, okay, well, the ref isn't in the ring with us, and all the knockdown animations are very similar. All the get up animations are very similar. The presentation in some areas is really good. In some areas it's definitely lacking. And so a lot of these things were issues that I overlooked, and I think a big part of it is just because I wanted to play a new boxing game so bad. And I'm glad we have a new boxing game, and it was one of the best-selling games of the year. So it's going to end up being a franchise, I imagine. So hopefully they can take the lessons learned with Undisputed and take the budget, or the money earned, the lessons learned and the money earned, to make a really good Undisputed 2 or Undisputed 2026 or whatever the hell they're going to call it. Squirrel with a Gun, one of my favorite games of the year. And no, I'm not joking. This shit's really fucking fun. It's like a good platformer, which I did not expect. And kind of in that same vein of the precision-based platforming of old, feels very just scary. You'll make a crazy jump, and you're like, oh shit, I don't know if I got the distance. I don't know if I got the distance. And if you land it, it's so satisfying. And then, you get your little RC car that you're going around with, and you get a helicopter, and you get a damn boat. You can fucking jet ski. You got like Hot Wheels tracks and little levels where you're, I talked about it a lot at the end of the year, so I'm not going to go through all the moments, but go to the award show and go to that best moments tab, and just, dude, Squirrel with a gun has some of the best moments of the year. Some of the best moments of the year. Juking out a whole football team to unlock a golden acorn. Just such a special game. Dragon Age, the Veilguard. So, BioWare is one of my favorite developers of all time. I know that the BioWare of old is definitely not the BioWare that made Dragon Age, the Veilguard, even though they have some senior staff that kind of stuck around. But by and large, you're going to get those games from your Exodus, and a lot of those actually, some of the key talent just recently had game, I think Mac Walters and another like key BioWare talent just had a game canceled recently, which is a fucking bummer. But it's Veilguard has incredible combat, fucking absolutely incredible combat, the best combat in a Dragon Age game by a mile. But it's a bit light in the ass when it comes to the actual role playing. They have a pretty predefined rook, and then you're going in and you get to make a few choices that feel like they matter, but by and large, you're kind of experiencing Rook's story and the companion story, and you're not all that involved in shaping it, which was a bummer. That's not why I play BioWare games. So that really bummed me out. And yeah, some of the writing is really, really weak. But then, once again, you have really, really strong moments in there. It's a very split game. And I think you see that divisiveness amongst the fan base in general. Like, I'm not a big Dragon Age fan. I'm not a big fantasy fan in general. I think a lot of that shit's just typically a bit corny. And this is even a bit more corny than... I wouldn't say most fantasy, but this is even a bit more corny than the other Dragon Age games, which, yeah. But still, fucking really fun combat. Atari 50. So I picked this up. I've heard great things about it. It's like the documentary style experience where you're going through and you got like 140 classic games, but it's also, you have like behind the scenes interviews and a bunch of shit like that, kind of chronicling the history of Atari in this sort of documentary meets video game hybrid. And I was like, yeah, it's a really cool idea. And I think it came out like 2020, 2023 maybe. And I remember hearing people just rave about that thing. And so I was like, yeah. When I saw it on sale, I think it was like $19.99 on Best Buy. Or maybe it might have even been cheaper than that. And I was like, yeah, I guess it's about time to pick that thing up. UFC 5. So I've played through all the UFC games. And my favorite is still UFC Undisputed 2010. The one with old Brock Lesnar on the cover. I just think that career mode is so damn good. But I want to check out all the UFC games. Dive into them for a little bit. Just to see what they're working with. Because I've been disappointed ever since they went with EA for the UFC games. I've just thought the career modes were so weak. But this one's a little bit better. It's a little bit better in UFC 5. It's still definitely very, very light in the ass. There's not a lot of content in that career mode. And you're not like making choices or going to the pre and post fight interviews, and you're not going to the weigh-ins, and it's missing a lot of content that we had from like 13 years ago, which is a fucking bummer. Or I guess like 15 years ago at this point. But yeah, it's a little bit better than what EA has been putting out lately. Like UFC 4 and 3, I hated both of those. Then we have Ease 10 Nordics. So I picked this one up. This was so towards the end of the year, I start getting into that mindset where I feel like I need to do homework, where I'm like, all right, we're coming towards Game of the Year season. I need to do my ranking. Is there anything out there that is really, that is solid, that people seem to recommend, that people seem to like, that I've never checked out? Then maybe this is the time to dive into it before I do my in-year rankings, just to see if by some off chance something really, really clicks with me. And so I picked up Ys 10. I've never played one of these games before. And I saw that, you can go around and you got something like naval ship battles and you're swinging around. You got like a grapple gun. You're swinging around. I was like, okay, cool. And I checked it out, played it for maybe 5 hours or so. And it is good. It's not bad at all. I'll keep my eye on the franchise. But after 5 hours, like, okay, yeah, I get an idea for what this is. It's definitely not something I want to play more. But I'm glad I checked it out. And it's at least interesting enough that I'll keep my eye on the franchise to see if they evolve into something a little bit more compelling over time. Alan Wake 2. So, obviously I waited for the physical release for Alan Wake 2, and dude, played through it, finished it. It's one of the most well-directed experiences I've ever played in my life. It's fucking incredible narrative, much better gameplay than the first Alan Wake game. Still not like, if you're going to Alan Wake for the gameplay, I definitely wouldn't recommend this game if you're like, I love the feel of Resident Evil 4. I want something that feels similar to that. Alan Wake 2 isn't going to provide you that on a gameplay experience. But if you can take, say half or a little bit less than half in terms of the quality of the combat for or Resident Evil 4, if you're okay with like dropping that by 50%, but increasing production value, increasing writing, and if we're looking at stats here, Resident Evil 4, its combat stat is like an 89 out of 100. Alan Wake 2, it's like, a 55. And then Resident Evil 4 story is like a 65. And then Alan Wake 2 story is like a 97. So it's like, you kind of gotta pick what you like there. Which I fucking love both. And I think most people would really enjoy both. Like if you like narrative driven, weird ass experiences, I have to recommend Alan Wake to you. Both Alan Wake 1 and Alan Wake 2, but Alan Wake 2 in particular is one of the wildest narrative experiences I've ever really had with a video game. It is just balls to the wall insanity, and it's Remedy at their peak in terms of their storytelling prowess in Alan Wake 2. All right, had to go grab a water. My damn voice is giving out on me. All right, let's move those over there. And now let's go through the rest of these vidges. Unknown 9 Awakening. So, anytime you put out a AA or AAA third-person action-adventure game, I'm gonna check it out. That's my favorite style of game, so I'm always curious to see what is new in that genre. And, I knew Bandai was behind this. I was like, okay, there's a little bit of money here. Let's see what we got going on. And it's the chick who plays Jennifer is like the main character, so I was curious. And there's some okay shit going on with the combat, like you can possess enemies, and so I'm possessing a sniper guy and shooting his own teammates, his own companions, taking them out as I possess that dude. There's some cool detonation systems and some decent stealth. It's okay from a combat standpoint. The story was just like, I don't give a fuck about what's going on here. And slowly I started to kind of get into it. But by then I was just like, man, you're slogging me through this narrative. And yeah, so ended up putting it down. But anytime, I mean, hey, if you're a fucking third person action adventure, AAA, AA experience, even indie for the most part, and you're trying something, I'm always going to check you out. All right. And now we have Pepper Grinder. So this is another one that people were just talking up and, saying it was super, super fun. And so I was like, all right, I'll check this thing out. It got a physical release. Might as well jump into it. And I played it for about an hour or so just before the Game of the Year ranking, just to see if there was something in there that would really click with me and something that I need to include on that ranking. And it's a fun little thing. It's not, for me personally, it was nothing that I felt so inclined to include on my Game of the Year ranking. It wasn't going to climb up to the top of that list or anything, but yeah, fun little thing. Sky Oceans, Wings for Hire. So this is a Skies of Arcadia inspired RPG, and it's cool. You can actually go around and fly your ship and, control that in real time and then get into the turn-based battles whenever the actual battle starts. And I was really digging this thing, but it was just super fucking buggy. Really, really buggy. And so I played it for 5 hours and ended up putting it down. And I was like, I'll go back to this when it gets fixed. But I don't know. I just get such a bad taste in my mouth. Where it's like, dude, I bought this game day one. And it's like, this is a lesson that we should have learned years and years ago, that people who buy games day one are typically the ones punished for doing so. But it is kind of that weird thing where it's like, I don't even really know if I'll ever go back to this thing, just because it's, not to be rude, but it's not like it's a game that I was just so glued to. I was into it, no doubt. But then whenever I put it down, it's not like one I kept thinking about. I'd like to see how the story played out. I thought the villain arc was really interesting. It wasn't like this super evil, over the top, typical villain. It was actually a villain that seemed to be plotting and kind of moving differently. And I was into some of that shit. But yeah, buggy as hell. Balatro. So I played this on Xbox earlier in the year digitally, and then I saw it was getting a physical print. And I was like, absolutely, I will 100% pick this up physically. Very, very addictive video game. And I know it came to phones recently, and I imagine that would be dangerous. So I haven't downloaded the Balatro phone version. I put about 20 hours into it, 15, 20 hours, something like that, into Balatro. And it was one of those games where, and I'm not often like this, where I don't want to look anything up. I didn't want to know anything about the game, how to play, strategies, anything like that. Well, I shouldn't say I'm not often like that. If I can avoid that shit, I'll enjoy the game experience much more. I never want to look up build guides for role-playing games. I never want to look up, best weapon type. I want to play and learn and kind of get the experience for myself. That as soon as I start pulling up a video, if I'm lost in a game and I don't know where to go, that's typically, say I do that 2 or 3 times, that's about my limit. The 4th time that I pull up a video, if I get lost or something, I'm like, yeah, I'm done. I don't want to keep pulling up videos. That's totally taking me out of this experience. And so with Balatro, I was just struggling, losing nonstop. But every single run, I felt like I was just getting a little bit better, learning a little bit more. And I was like, I don't want to rob myself of this, because I'm sure there's 100 guides online that you can pull up that you can win a run in 10 minutes. And it's just I don't know. I felt like that wasn't what the experience was supposed to be with Balatro, where the learning process of it, and you guys know I'm not one of those get good, do whatever if you want to pull up a guide and fucking run through it in 10 minutes and just whatever is fun to you, do. That's another thing. I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, where the fuck did cheat codes go? Cheat codes got to come back. Cheat codes make games so much more fun. And actually, I had just booted up Baldur's Gate 3, and I saw that they had mod support on the PS5 now. And I was like, ooh, that actually might be a way that I can jump into Baldur's Gate 3 and actually have a little bit more fun and maybe make the battles quicker, if that's some mod where I can just run through those battles much quicker than I did before and just speed the game up a little bit. So anyways, yeah, I'm not a get good guy. Have fun however the fuck you want to have fun. But that was the thing. I was having fun getting good at Balatro, and I didn't want to rob myself of that. I didn't want to pull up anything. I wanted to learn everything on the fly, and And yeah, it took me like 15, 20 hours just to win one run in Balatro. And I don't know. I had a lot of fun doing so. That was a really, really fun 15 hours, 20 hours, whatever. Goat Sim 3. So I want to play through this. I think this studio, it's Coffee Stain, right? Yeah, Coffee Stain. I think they got something here. With their crazy open world antics, I would love for them to move on from the GOAT. I know these games sell well though. I would love for them to move on from the GOAT, and now that Volition is no longer around, like if Coffee Stain could kind of become that new Volition and create an open world crime sandbox where you actually get to play as a human, kind of that Saints Row style experience. I think that they're the natural next man up in that sphere. You know what I mean? Like they definitely are. That is the company that could do that. And I don't know. I know those GOAT games sell well though, so they don't really have much of a incentive to move away from it. Dragon Quest 3, the HD 2D remaster remake. I'm trying, man. Guys, I'm trying. I'm trying my damnedest to get into a turn-based JRPG. I try to pick the majority of them up, and I can't, dude. I'm gonna keep trying, and eventually one's gonna click with me, but I just can't. Those random battle encounters, and I know you can like run away from them, you can flee in Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D, but it's just like, dude, this is such a fucking time waster. Like, let's get to the good stuff. Like, let's skip all this grinding and just repetitive, boring ass menu based battles. And like, I don't know. It's the thing where I'm going to keep trying. And eventually maybe I'll find one of those games that really, really click with me. And I'm not like an anti JRPG guy. I love Final Fantasy 16 and Final Fantasy 7 Remake and Rebirth and, so I'm not just it's the turn-based thing that just, golly, it's so slow, so boring to me. But I love the art style, and there's a lot. That's the thing that keeps me coming back, is there's so many elements of those style of games that I dig. I love that art style in Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D, the remake. I love it. But man, I hate the gameplay. Slitterhead, staying kind of right there. The gameplay in this was brutally awful, but I love the vibe of this thing. I put maybe 3-4 hours into it. It is so grim and so like, it's just a throwback to the era where degeneracy was like at the forefront of culture. And I don't know. It's just this bleak, nihilistic sort of vibe that you would get back in the PS3 days. And the combat's bad. Some of the shit in between the story missions where you're just like going through, and it's like this, the character's just kind of sitting there going through her thoughts, and you got to sit there and like watch all of this shit play out, even though and it takes like 10-15 minutes and nothing is going on. And so some of there's some weird shit in there, but yeah, I could have dealt with that if the combat was just really, really bad. It's like a, action based real time action, but the hit detection was just so wonky. You'd be smacking an enemy over and over and nothing was happening. And so I'm assuming that was some bug or some shit, but even without that, even if it was running as intended, the combat just wasn't good. I liked the possession idea. I liked it more so for the platforming than I did for the combat, but I like that idea of these disposable bodies where you're hopping into a body and drawing it towards the enemy. The enemy's going to go attack that body so that you can swap back to the main character and do your special attack and kind of get a bunch of attacks in simultaneously while the big monster, the big boss or whatever, is killing off a bunch of other people that you have lined up. And once again, just that bleak sort of tone I really vibe with, but the gameplay was very bad. Conscript Deluxe Edition. So I picked this up. This is like a it's World War One, right? Yeah, I think it's World War One. Survival horror, like, you know, old school tank based survival horror. And it's got, you know, it's got the inventory management, and it's like a kind of balls to the wall action version of that that tank based sort of experience, the classic PS1 tank based survival horror experience, but it's leaning into the horrors of war, and then it kind of goes a little bit darker from there. And so I played like 3 or so hours of Conscript, and I thought it was pretty damn good. I have kind of gotten to this point where I don't know what it is. I love like Resident Evil 2 and all of the classic Resident Evil games, really. But Resident Evil 2 is like my favorite game of all time. But modern tank-based horror games, I like them in limited. Like, I haven't finished a single, well, I guess Fear the Spotlight, but that even wasn't totally tank-based. You had a little bit more control over the character. But anywho, I like these games in theory, but I rarely finish them. And every time I play them, like a Signalis or a what's the one that came out this year? Damn, I'm totally blanking on it. Motherfucker, man. It's the one that has like the Final Fantasy looking characters, Crow Country. And I'll play them, and I'll play like more than half of them, and then I'm just like, okay, I'm cool. I'm good. I get it. I don't need to finish this. I understand what the experience is. And I don't know why I have that. But I guess once again, it's the thing where it's like I don't dislike any of these games. It's not like I'm getting to a point in the game where I start to dislike the game and jump off. It's just like, okay, yeah, it's cool. I like this thing. But I don't need to play through 5 more hours of this. Like, you know, I think that'll, in a weird, it's a weird thing where there is a certain point where you can get to a point of a game where you're like, yeah, if I keep playing this, I think I'm actually going to sour on the game. And I don't know, there's kind of like I don't know what the word I'm looking for is here. There's actually some sort of equation there where it's like, what is the right time to hop out of a game that you're actually enjoying, but you're kind of getting to that point where you can see diminishing returns in your enjoyment? Like, when would it be better to put your energy into something else? When would it be better to just switch to a different game? That way you don't begin to sour on a game you actually were enjoying. Weird. I don't know where I'm going with that, but yeah. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutants Unleashed. So I picked this up because I, once again, was hearing some really good things about it. It's kind of like a Turtles Persona game, but like real, you know, real-time action combat. And yeah, this wasn't bad, man. It once again, one of those things where I played a little bit of it, got the idea, and similar in that game of the year season where I'm trying to pick up everything that I could possibly play, and then that kind of becomes a problem too, because it's like when you're trying to dabble with a bunch of shit, you're really never going to finish much of anything. But I don't really mind that. You know, I think that that's kind of like a goal of mine in 2025 is just to try out like more games and be less dedicated to finishing them. You know, like just dabble, see if there's something that just really, really clicks with you. And then the stuff that really clicks, kind of put your mind into finishing that, and then just try out as much shit as possible. But yeah, that if you're into the Turtles, that's probably, I mean, that's probably one of the more interesting Turtles games that feels a little bit more, you know, feels a little bit more expensive than anything from the Turtles we've maybe ever gotten. So yeah, check that out. the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutants Unleashed. Monster Jam Showdown. So I actually played a good bit of this. Probably played like 6 or so hours. And this thing's fun, dude. It's kind of... I really liked Inertial Drift back in the day. And so with Inertial Drift, it's kind of like this twin stick drifter where you're going to be using, the different analog sticks are going to control the front wheels and the back wheels. So like your right analog stick is controlling the back wheels. The the left analog stick is controlling the front wheels, or however the fuck it works out. And yeah, you're participating in these races that are chaotic as fuck. And then you have like the actual events and the challenges where you're doing the backflips and you're, running over the cars. And I had a pretty damn good time with my little, 5-6 hours that I put into Monster Jam Showdown. All right, my bad, guys. I had to get a drink of water there. My voice is giving out on me. Been too many damn recordings, too many long recordings as of late. Losing the old voice. Psychodyssey. I had to buy the physical edition of this, the best video game documentary that has ever been created. It's pretty much documenting the development process of Psychonauts 2. And if you have not watched this, the full thing is available free on YouTube. I'll link to it. And yeah, so I watched it all on YouTube at first, obviously. And then when I saw it was getting a physical print run, I was like, yeah, I absolutely will be buying that to hopefully ensure that we get more video game documentaries like that, because it's a weird thing where it's for people like me and probably most of you who are tuning in who are like very, very into the behind the scenes shit that goes on with video games, and you want to know as much as humanly possible. This documentary definitely covers that, but it's also from the angle of somebody who, like, if you like reality television slop, you can also kind of get that in this documentary as well. Like, you're actually invested in individual people in their arc, and there's like these little tensions that are building and little internal rivalries that you can see kind of popping up, and even to the point where it's so well documented and it's so hands off from an executive and from a corporate level, that even people like Tim Schafer end up looking bad at times in this documentary, which is so important because, like, if you spent, a year documenting my life, in which this is fucking this is close to a fucking decade that they're documenting the development process of Psychonauts 2. You're going to have low moments for everybody. If you spent a year, if you spent a day documenting my life, you'd be like, yeah, this dude can be a bit of a fucking asshole. And the fact that none of that shit is cut from this documentary, which I'm sure there's still a lot of shit cut, but the fact that you actually do see Tim Schafer and, the fucking owner of Double Fine, and there's moments where you're going to be like, damn, Tim Schafer, he doesn't, they're not portraying him in the best light, but that's what makes the documentary so compelling, is because it feels so earnest. It feels like something that really is being shot by a third-party company that is in no way, shape, or form obligated to, they're not having to, which I don't know how that, because I know it was, 2 Second Player Productions, or what is the name of the company that did the actual documentary work? I think it's like Second Player Productions. I don't see it on here, which is kind of a bummer. But, yeah, I can't see it. But anywho, I don't even remember what the fuck I was saying. But yeah, it doesn't feel like they had to submit their homework into Matt Booty and have Matt Booty go over it, or have Phil Spencer go over it, or even have fucking Tim Schafer go over it. It feels like this is Second Player Productions. It feels like this is their documentary. And, yeah, it's just really, really interesting from the standpoint of a reality show, and also from the standpoint of a behind the scenes deep look into video game development and how shit really ends up, the roller coaster road, or the roller coaster ride that these developers can go on over the course of a fucking, damn near a decade. So yeah, that shit is really good. And those are my pickups for, I don't know, when was the last time? I'm not going to go through it. It's been a few months since I did a damn pickups video. So appreciate the patience. Hopefully these can roll out a little bit quicker. Which honestly, I guess I have been picking up a good amount of shit and should have got to these quicker. But it's the end of the year thing where, we're doing game of the year rankings. We're doing all of that stuff. So I'm trying to get that out in a timely manner, and the predictions and all of that good stuff that is a little bit more on a deadline. Not that it's any real deadline, but I try to give myself some sort of deadline. You don't want to have your 2024 Game of the Year episode coming out in March. So, yeah, this got pushed to the back burner for a little bit. But, hey, man, I hope y'all enjoyed. Let me know what you have been picking up. Let me know what you have been diving into in the comments below. And, yeah, Happy New Year, everybody. Hope y'all are well. And best wishes to you all for 2025. Let's go and conquer the year. Let's dream, believe, achieve. Let's hoorah, go team, go. 2025, it's our year. 2025. Yay.